All right, so we're diving into some heavy stuff today, huh? Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor, philosopher.
Yeah, not your average dude.
Definitely not. I mean, we're talking about the guy who was running an empire while writing his own self-help book, basically. Meditations. And we're focusing on book 7, right? Where he really gets into Stoic philosophy.
Yeah, the good stuff. And I mean, you can tell he's writing from experience. This isn't just some ivory tower philosophy. He's dealing with real life stuff. Wars, plagues, political intrigue.
Right, talk about high-pressure situations. And yet he's still trying to figure out how to stay centered, how to find peace amidst all the chaos.
Which is probably why his writing still resonates with people today, you know? Because who hasn't felt that chaos in their own life?
Totally. And one of the first things that struck me was how he describes time. He's not messing around. It's a raging torrent, he calls it. Gone in a flash.
It's vivid, right? And he even says this torrent sweeps everything along, even brilliant minds like Socrates.
Like nobody gets a pass on this. Time waits for no one.
Exactly. And I think that's where Stoicism comes in, that practicality. If time is constantly flowing, always changing, why stress about what we can't control?
It's like trying to hold back that river he was talking about. Pointless.
So what can you do? Focus on what you can control. Your thoughts, your actions.
Okay, so how do you actually do that?
Well, he uses this interesting analogy about wax constantly changing shapes. You know, a horse, a tree, a person. He's saying the universe is like that wax, always transforming.
And everything in it is temporary, including our problems.
Including our problems. Now think about how this applies to you.
Yeah.
Ever get caught up in that feeling of like, oh no, I'm missing out?
FOMO.
Exactly. Aurelius would say that feeling. Temporary, like those wax figures. What really matters is focusing on your own experience, what's right in front of you.
Okay, I can get behind that. But what about when it's other people stressing us out? Aurelius talks about anger.
Right. He does. Because let's face it, sometimes people just make it hard to stay calm and rational.
Understatement of the year.
But instead of getting all worked up, Aurelius suggests something kind of radical.
What's that?
Try to see things from their perspective.
Easier said than done when you're on the receiving end of, well, you know.
Oh, absolutely. But the Stoics believe that everyone acts according to what they think is right, even if it's totally misguided.
So it's not necessarily about them being intentionally difficult.
Right. It might be coming from a place of misunderstanding or their own internal struggles.
Okay, that does make it a little easier to swallow.
It's about cultivating compassion, even when it's hard. And that leads us to another point Aurelius makes, this idea of winding up into thyself.
Which sounds a bit like becoming a hermit, to be honest.
Right. But it's more about hitting the pause button on the world's chaos and finding some peace and quiet inside yourself. They called it interclusion.
So like a mental retreat.
Exactly. Think about how you feel after even a few minutes of doing something you love, reading, music, being in nature, that feeling of peace, of being fully present.
I mean, who doesn't want more of that in their life?
Exactly. And that's the space Aurelius is talking about accessing.
And the cool thing is, this isn't some ancient philosophy that's totally irrelevant today, right? It's like he knew we'd be dealing with this constant information overload.
Totally. Stress and overwhelm. Aurelius was dealing with that centuries ago.
Right. And he doesn't just tell us to chill out. He actually gives us like practical steps to cultivate that inner peace.
Yeah, he gives us a whole action plan. Wipe off all opinion, he says. Circumscribe the present time. Examine, divide, think. It's a mental toolkit.
Okay, so let's unpack those a bit.
Yeah.
What does he mean by wipe off all opinion?
Well, think about how much mental energy we spend on judging things, you know?
Yeah.
Ourselves, other people, situations. We put so much stock in our opinions.
And a lot of times those opinions are based on our own biases, right? Not necessarily objective reality.
Exactly. And they can cause so much unnecessary suffering. Aurelius is saying, try to see things as they are without those layers of judgment.
So like instead of getting caught up in whether something is fair or not, just try to see the situation clearly.
Exactly. It's a subtle shift, but powerful. And then there's circumscribe the present time. That one always gets me.
Because it's so true, right? We spend so much time worrying about the past or stressing about the future.
And all we really have is this moment. The past is gone, the future is uncertain, but the present, this is it.
I mean, worrying really is like paying interest on a debt you might not even owe.
Right. Aurelius is all about cutting out those unnecessary mental payments. Be present, be engaged, be alive in this moment.
Which, again, easier said than done, but I get it. And it all kind of ties together, right? Accepting what you can't control, focusing on the present moment, finding that inner peace through interclusion.
It's a practice for sure. And speaking of practice, Aurelius has a few more tools for us. Examine, divide, and think.
Okay, break those down. What do they look like in action?
Examine is all about self-reflection. Take the time to really understand your thoughts, your emotions, what's motivating you.
So, not just reacting on autopilot, but actually pausing to figure out why you're reacting that way.
Exactly. It's about increasing self-awareness. And once you've examined those thoughts and feelings, that's where divide comes in. Separate what's in your control from what's not.
So that's where the whole focus on what you can control thing comes back in.
You got it. We can't control external events, but we can control how we respond to them.
And I'm guessing think ties into all of this.
Absolutely. Engage that rational mind.
Yeah.
Find solutions. Don't let your emotions completely run the show.
So we've got wipe off all opinion, circumscribe the present time, examine, divide, and think. It's a whole toolkit for inner peace.
And remember, these aren't just random ideas. This was a guy running an empire. Wars, plagues, you name it. Talk about a masterclass in stress management.
If he could find moments of tranquility amidst all that, I mean, there's hope for us, right?
Right.
But he also doesn't shy away from the heavier stuff, like death. He gets pretty real about it.
Oh, yeah. He doesn't sugarcoat it at all.
It's kind of refreshing, actually. Like he's just being real with us about the big mystery.
Totally. He talks about all these possibilities, dispersion, atoms, annihilation. But ultimately, he's like, look, nobody knows for sure.
And the best part is he doesn't even dwell on it.
Right. He just accepts it. Death as a natural part of life. Something to face with courage, not fear.
It's like he's saying, we're all part of this big cosmic play, and eventually the curtain falls. Don't sweat the ending.
Exactly. And that acceptance, that understanding that death is just another transformation, it can be incredibly freeing.
Totally. Puts everything into perspective. If death is natural, then maybe we don't need to be so afraid of it.
Right. And it goes back to that idea of everything being temporary. Good stuff, bad stuff, it all eventually passes away.
It's kind of a heavy thought, but also comforting in a weird way.
It's about finding that balance.
Yeah.
Peace and acceptance, even when things are chaotic.
Which is like the whole point of Stoicism, right?
Exactly. And what I love about Aurelius is that he doesn't just talk about these big philosophical ideas. He gives us practical tools to actually apply them to our lives, a roadmap.
Which is what makes this whole conversation so fascinating, right?
Yeah.
It's one thing to understand this stuff intellectually, but it's another thing to actually live it.
Totally. So as we're wrapping up our deep dive with Marcus Aurelius, what's one thing that really resonated with you? What's your big takeaway?
Man, there were so many good nuggets in there. But I think that image of time as a rushing torrent, that really stuck with me. It's such a powerful reminder that everything is temporary. It makes me want to slow down, be more present, What about you? Anything sticking with you?
That's a great one. For me, it's that idea that we always have a choice in how we respond to things. Even when life throws crap at us, we can choose our attitude. And that is incredibly powerful.
I love that. So even when we can't control what happens to us, we can still find a sense of peace through reason. Just like Aurelius was saying. Well, Aurelius definitely gave us a lot to think about today. A whole new perspective on dealing with life's ups and downs. And to everyone listening, if you're feeling inspired to bring a little more stoic tranquility into your own life, remember those practical steps we talked about. Wiping off opinion, being present in the moment, examining your thoughts, and responding with reason, not just reacting. Try them out and see what happens.
We hold our heads high through the stormy skies. We never say die. Facing every challenge like a stoic knight. With every step forward, we ignite the night. Bounce back from the falls, never showing no fear. In the darkest moments, our minds stay clear. With a heart of iron and a steady aim, we charge through the pain, never seeking fame. Keep it moving, keep it strong. Pushing forward all day long. Stoic courage, battle on. Raise your voice and sing this song. From the valleys low to the highest peaks, we conquer the silence even when it speaks. Life's battles rage on, we never shy away. Standing firm in the fray each and every day. Rhythm of resilience pounding in our chest. Fighting every battle, never taking rest. Stoic courage flowing in our veins. Through the joy and through the pains. Keep it moving, keep it strong. Push it forward all day long. Stoic courage, battle on. Raise your voice and sing this song. Keep it moving, and keep it strong. Push it forward all day long. Stoic courage, battle on. Raise your voice and sing this song. From the valleys low to the highest peaks, we conquer the silence even when it speaks. Life's battles rage on, we never shy away, standing firm in the fray each and every day. Rhythm of resilience pounding in our chest, fighting every battle, never taking rest. Stoic courage flowing in our veins, through the joy and through the pains. Keep it moving, keep it strong. Push it forward all day long. Stoic courage, battle on. Raise your voice and sing this song.
There isn't any of us that can't get better. So turn on this whole idea of personal development and personal growth. That was what my teacher shared with me that changed my life. Starting a few steps from here at that convention. I'm telling you, for things to get better, you got to get better. Don't ask for it to change out there. Ask for you to change here. Don't ask for a more favorable wind. We call that naive. Don't ask for better seed, better soil. This is the only planet you got. Just ask that you can get wiser and stronger and better, and be able to take care of your own responsibilities. Get better. Learn how to handle the seasons better. Let's go through them. Just get better at handling the winters. You can't change the winter. You can't change the seasons, but you can change yourself. You say, well, what can I do about the upcoming winters of my life? The challenges that I know I'm going to face. Here's what you can do. You can get wiser and stronger and better. Just make a list of that trio of words. Wiser, stronger, and better. Go home smarter than you came. Go home with more ideas than you came with. Next, get stronger. You can develop the muscle. You can develop the courage muscle. You can develop the inspiration muscle. You can develop the dedication muscle. You can get stronger. There isn't anybody here that can't get stronger. Next time we see you, may not even recognize you. How strong you're going to be able to become in language, in style, in personality, the ability to cope, the ability to handle with anything that happens, no matter what happens. And the third one is get better. We can all get better. I've gotten better. First talk I gave, I stood up, my mind sat back down. But here's the secret to my success. I stood up and did it again. I stood up and I did it again. And I did it again and I did it again.
Envy is a waste of time. You already have all you need. In any given moment, we have two options: to step forward into growth or step back into safety. Success is not how high you have climbed, but how you make a positive difference to the world. Roy T. Bennett. Do it now. Sometimes later becomes never. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants.
What you imagine and feel as true will become your reality. Neville Goddard.
Against Epicurus. Even Epicurus perceives that we are by nature social, but having once placed our good in the husk, he is no longer able to say anything else. For on the other hand, he strongly maintains this, that we ought not to admire nor to accept anything which is detached from the nature of good, and he is right in maintaining this. How then are we suspicious if we have no natural affection to our children? Why do you advise the wise man not to bring up children? Why are you afraid that he may thus fall into trouble? For does he fall into trouble on account of the mouse which is nurtured in the house? What does he care if a little mouse in the house makes lamentation to him? But Epicurus knows that if once a child is born, it is no longer in our power not to love it nor care about it. For this reason, Epicurus says that a man who has any sense also does not engage in political matters, for he knows what a man must do who is engaged in such things. For indeed, if you intend to behave among men as you do among a swarm of flies, what hinders you? But Epicurus, who knows this, ventures to say that we should not bring up children. But a sheep does not desert its own offspring, nor yet a wolf. And shall a man desert his child? What do you mean? That we should be as silly as sheep, but not even do they desert their offspring, or as savage as wolves, but not even do wolves desert their young. Well, who would follow your advice if he saw his child weeping after falling on the ground? For my part, I think that even if your mother and your father had been told by an oracle that you would say what you have said, they would not have cast you away.
They said endeavor is going to be the overriding factor that makes a difference.
You know, people need to have purpose to get up. They need purpose to perform. You need to get to a point in your life where there's nothing on the docket. There is no 5K. There's no, I'm going to get into school to be this or that, and still perform to the highest level. But what's funny about it all is that we need these things to perform. But we don't take a second to realize the purpose is always there. The purpose never leaves us, because the very purpose is you. You are always the purpose. There may be another purpose, like being a SEAL or going to college or whatever, but the main purpose in life is you. So if you wake up in the morning and you don't want to do something, you don't care enough about yourself. And that's what you need to really research is, man, why am I not doing this for myself? Because that is the number one purpose in life, is to better oneself. So that's the only purpose I need.
Use pain as a fuel. Imagine if you could use the pain as a passport. Imagine if you could use the pain to push you, to condition you, to prepare you for the stages and the rooms you got to walk into and the tables you got to sit at and the stages you have to stand on. What if the pain could make you better? What if the pain could build muscle? What if the pain could cause you to reach higher, to leap farther, to run faster? What if the pain could help you? What if all pain isn't hurt, but it's help?
We're built to walk uphill. And when you reach the pinnacle of the hill, you want to stop and appreciate the vision, but the next thing you want is a higher hill in the distance, because it's from the uphill climb that we derive our value, and I mean this technically. So
Act like you have been there before. Don't react. Cut them off silently.
Three things cannot be long hidden: the sun, the moon, and the truth. Buddha.
To live is to suffer. To survive is to find some meaning in the suffering. Out of suffering have emerged the strongest souls. The most massive characters are seared with scars.
It's a lie to think you're not good enough. It's a lie to think you're not worth anything. Nick Vujicic.
When you have made this preparation and have practiced this discipline to distinguish that which belongs to another from that which is your own, the things which are subject to hindrance from those which are not, to consider the things free from hindrance to concern yourself, and those which are not free not to concern yourself, to keep your desire steadily fixed to the things which do concern yourself, and turned from the things which do not concern yourself, do you still fear any man? No one. For about what will you be afraid? About the things which are your own, in which consists the nature of good and evil? And who has power over these things? Who can take them away? Who can impede them? No man can, no more than he can impede God. But will you be afraid about your body and your possessions, about things which are not yours, about things which in no way concern you? And what else have you been studying from the beginning than to distinguish between your own and not your own, the things which are in your power and not in your power, the things subject to hindrance and not subject? And why have you come to the philosophers? Was it that you may nevertheless be unfortunate and unhappy? You will then in this way, as I have supposed you to have done, be without fear and disturbance. And what is grief to you? For fear comes from what you expect, but grief from that which is present. But what further will you desire? For of the things which are within